Call this meeting to order. Thank you very much. This is a meeting of the Weber County Commission, Board of Commissioners, on this Tuesday, the 16th of November. It's 10 o'clock. We have a full quorum and we're anxious to get going. Our Pledge of Allegiance this morning will be our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Sarah Tolliver, the president of our Visit Ogden. Our invocation will be given by Miss Cassie Bybee, who's the head of our conference center, and then our thought of the day will be given by Commissioner Gage Frohr. We will go to that there. Ms. Tolliver?
Please stand and recite with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we come before Thee at this time with gratitude in our hearts and to express gratitude for the freedoms that we have in this country, for the abilities that we have to be able to serve the people in this community. And we ask Thy blessings to be with us as we make decisions on behalf of Weber County, that we might be intuitive to what is best for the people in this community, that we might continue to build strength and unity. And we say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this morning my thought goes to a very important process that some people may not be aware of as far as the details. That has to do with redistricting in the state of Utah, which happens every 10 years. And that process starts with a legislative committee that's appointed by the Speaker and President of the House and Senate, and they go around with this committee and meet with members of the public, look at maps that are developed by members of the public, and redraw our 4 House districts, congressional House districts, the 75 Utah House districts, and the 29 Senate districts in the state. And the way they do that is based on population. And what they do is then they take that population, let's take the congressional seats that comes about from the census, and divide that by 4, and whatever that number is then will result in the number of people that need to be in that particular House district. The same, they divide that by 75, and you have the number of people in a Utah House district, House of Representatives. When I was on that committee in 2011, I was in charge of redrawing the Weber County House and Senate districts. Not everybody was happy with me, and not everybody was happy today as you see the 2021 maps come about. But I'll tell you, that's a hard process to go through. What I would say, and I think that the governor has now signed the congressional seats, House district maps, and I think he's in the process of signing the other maps. But I think the committee took a lot of heat on not listening to the members of the public, and especially the independent commission that submitted maps that were not recognized. But the congressional map that we actually see in front of us that was signed was actually presented in Logan by a member of the community up there. And that map basically cut Salt Lake City into 4 districts. And the argument was, well, maybe Salt Lake City, excuse me, should have 1 or 2. And the commission came out and stood very firmly and said, look, it's not unusual. In fact, it's probably proper that the districts, your representatives, have a portion of rural and urban combined, rather than have one district that represents all rural and one all urban. And I actually support that. I think that's probably a wise thing, that make sure our representation represents both the agricultural side and the urban side, and I think we probably have better policy because of it. Anyway, a lot of the districts have changed. My district, District 8, my old district, now includes part of North Ogden, and they became a statewide because they moved over and took into account part of Mountain Green. So it now becomes a state rather than a strictly county district. And that's what happens when you cross county borders. So just aware that people should look at those maps, because the next year when it comes about, you may have a different senator, or you may have a different House representative. We'll have the same representative in District 1. That's not going to change, but a lot of our House districts have changed. So look at those maps and be aware that your districts and your precincts is dictated by the county, and will probably change here over the next 12 months. So that's my thought.
Great. Thank you for that education on that, Commissioner. Commissioner Jenkins?
I really appreciate that thought, Commissioner Frohr. I don't know what your memory's like, but I was in the leadership in the Senate at the time.
That's right.
So I sat in a lot of those meetings and was intimately involved in this redistricting.
Yep.
And it's fascinating to do this. Everybody talks about, well, rural Utah should have their own representation, and so let's make it the donut hole. Remember, we used to talk about the donut hole all the time, and how you have it all around Salt Lake, but there is so much, the population is in Salt Lake County, and all that ends up happening is that hole just ends up getting bigger. And so they elected to slice it up like a pie and give everybody an equal opportunity that way. And it turned out actually, I think, very good. It was a wise decision, and it's similar this time.
Very similar. They call this a pinwheel.
That's right.
Very similar to what we called the pie back in 2011, but very similar.
And, I agree with that. There's no perfect way to doing this, and everybody says, well, they're gerrymandering. Well, hell, they use that term so often that it ends up not meaning anything, because it's all if minute it isn't what you want, they gerrymandered it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I appreciate that thought today. It was a great thought.
And thank you. And people don't understand that we're under federal law to make sure that those districts on the population size come about as close to possible. So when it says, well, how come you cut my street in half, or why did you cut this particular city, you're required to do that to make that population work in that map. So you don't have a lot of we don't have a lot of latitude in saying, look, let's take all of North Ogden and put that in one, because the populations don't work. The numbers don't work.
Yeah, you know, we used to go down there and sit in that computer room. You know which room I'm talking about.
That many hours.
That's right. And you'd sit there and draw those lines. You actually had the ability to take one house out and put another house in, and you could see the totals. And of course, that's what you're working for. And it's an amazing process for about a day or two. And then once you get past that day or two, it just overwhelms you because of the magnitude of it. Anyway, thanks.
Very good, Commissioners. Thank you for those comments. It's always good to learn. And it's great, again, for me to be alongside two gentlemen who have had the experience and the depth that you two do, and it's shown positively in Weber County business. So appreciate it. I'm going to move on to item E, which is our consent items. I'll read those now. Item number 1 is a request for approval of warrants 4659 through and including 4686 and 463,546 through and including 463,714 in the amount of $744,489.23. Item number 2 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $35,099.14. Item 3 is a request for approval of the minutes for the meetings held on July 20 and November 9th, 2021. Item 4 is a request for approval of ACH payments to U.S. Bank in the amount of $170,244.52. Item number 5 is a request for approval of new business licenses, and item number 6 is a request for approval to declare parcel number 24-003-0043 as surplus property. Item 7, a request for approval of change orders number 7 and number 8 on E.K. Bailey Construction Contract 2020-8 for the Sheriff's Office Warehouse. Item 8, a request for approval of change order number 1 for the BML service contract. And item 9 is a request for approval of a retirement agreement by and between Weber County and Gar and A. Johnson. Item 10, a request for approval of contracts by and between Weber County and the following individuals her services for the Ogden Musical Theater's production of The Five Carols for Christmas. Caleb Saunders is the music director, Candace Bassett, stage manager, and Bridget Lehman as the sound designer. Commissioners, any questions regarding any of the things in the consent items or any of the detail on the consent items? Hearing none, Mr. Hatch, our clerk auditor, will you please give a brief description of what they included?
You bet. Highlights for this week. We issued 7 purchase orders for $35,000. 69% of that amount, or $24,000, is for the library, and those funds will go towards purchasing a digital microfilm scanner, as well as some building repairs and some training. We issued 197 warrants this week for $744,000. 1/4 of that amount, or $189,000, was road construction on Rulon White Boulevard in Pleasant View. 14%, or $106,000, is for the jail, and that went mostly to inmate medical care, but also some utilities and other smaller items. 10%, or $76,000, is for the health department. That was exclusively pass-through grant awards. 7%, or $53,000, is for dispatch, which went primarily to equipment maintenance as well as telephone fees. And then 6%, or $44,000, is for the library, and that is for building maintenance as well as books and materials.
Very good, Mr. Hatch. Commissioners, any questions on any of the consent items? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve consent items E 1 through 10.
Motion heard, recognized,
Second.
and seconded. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Commissioners, our first action item, listed as item F on your agenda, is the presentation of Visit Ogden's 2021 annual report and request for approval of the 2022 strategic plan. Well, welcome to the podium the second Hall of Fame recipient in the state of Utah for the Department of Tourism, the president of the Ogden CVB, Sarah Tolliver. Go ahead. The first question we have is, who was the first recipient in this room to receive that?
The man sitting to your right, the father of the Tourism Marketing Performance Fund. So we're in great company.
We just call him Dad.
There you go.
Well, thank you for having me. As you mentioned, as part of Visit Ogden's contract with Weber County, we need to present our strategic plan for the upcoming year for approval. So I am here to do that today and apologize in advance to the two of you who sit on my board and listened to all of this yesterday as well as Marty and Cassie. So I'll try to hurry through it. It's a little bit abbreviated version from what you heard yesterday, but we'll get through all the highlights. So this year has been one of the more difficult, I would say, to try to assemble this report, because as things continue to evolve and we try to express all that we have worked on in the past year and what our goals are for the coming year, it becomes more and more to try to report. And where it used to be just more standard sales and marketing KPIs and metrics to report on, now as we've evolved into our destination development initiatives and community-based initiatives, it becomes a little less tangible, trying to explain how we are working towards making Visit Ogden a community asset and the visitor economy here in Weber County a shared value. So we've provided you with a short overview, both in print and then you have the PDF version online, but we've also uploaded this year a more comprehensive version to our website. So under our visitogden.com contact us page, you can find all of this information in more detail so that the public has access to it as well. You'll see here the 3 plans that we mentioned: a destination development plan we created last year that is a 10-year plan, the strategic plan for 2022, and the annual report for 2021. Under each of those plans are our 5 pillars represented and the activities that are guided under each one, and any other relevant information, like starting with a snapshot of our visitor economy overview. This is year to date, January through October 2021. So when we compare these numbers over the same time frame in previous years, our transient room tax collections are up 34% over 2020 and 22% over 2019. Our restaurant tax numbers are up 21% over 2020 and 18% over 2019, and our lease vehicle tax is up 35% over 2020 and 7% over 2019. You can also see the corresponding lodging data in your packet. I mentioned the 5 pillars that guide our efforts, but under each of our goals and objectives, you'll see a lot of overlap amongst the pillars. Our industry has evolved a lot, and we're referenced by a number of names, and we just continue to do the work of all of them. So we continue to do the work of a Convention and Visitors Bureau, which has been more servicing clients and travelers who are in market, whether that's meeting attendees or travelers who are looking for information on what to do while they're here. We continue the work of a destination marketing organization, which is explaining our brand and values as a community to potential visitors to bring them to town. We continue to do the work of a destination management organization, which is making sure that we have the pieces in place to deliver on the experience we're promising. And now we're working towards fulfilling the work of being a destination stewardship organization. To do this, we're partnering with the economic development organizations at both the city and county levels and the Ogden Downtown Alliance to ensure that we're communicating the quality of life that makes our residents want to stay here and demonstrates why workforce would want to move here. Economic development has also seen its fair share of changes over the years, and what used to be accomplished by providing the right amount of square footage or possibly incentives now is definitely a more robust presentation of the quality of life that a place can offer a business and its employees, or a worker and his or her family. So we're there to partner on those efforts. To start with, we updated our mission statement earlier this year with the support of our board to more accurately reflect our evolving strategies, goals, and values. And under this advocacy pillar, in addition to that, we advocated for the increased lodging capacity in downtown, which will continue. We worked on short-term rental ordinances with Weber County Planning Department to find opportunities to enforce those causing problems or those that are out of compliance. We're working with the Culture Parks and Rec team on a number of issues, and with the U.S. Forest Service on Pineview and to secure dumpsters for high-use areas, developing campaigns to target in-market visitors and residents on how to recreate responsibly, as we've seen increases in these areas, and obviously supporting various legislative issues as they arise. This year, that will be on flexible transient room tax use, as well as exploring tourism improvement districts. Under our community pillar, we really focus on our collaboration with community and stakeholder partners. There are a lot of entities working to do a lot of great things in this county, and we want to assure that our strategic plans align with all of theirs. So whether that's the Make Ogden Plan, the Ogden Valley General Plan, Ogden Downtown Alliance's strategic plan, any and all of those we're reviewing to make sure we're in alignment. This pillar also encompasses those things we do to support our local establishments, including things like the creation of Ogden Restaurant Week, which we changed this year to acknowledge supply chain and workforce challenges that our restaurants were facing. And we created a number of what's called Bandwango passes to encourage local spend, as well as various experiences in our market. Our support of environmental and community assets is also incorporated here with our adoption of our section of the Ogden River Parkway, this painted mural project you'll see here that we did as a beautification as part of the Utah Office of Tourism Conference, the dumpsters at Pineview, and we were fortunate enough to secure a $75,000 grant from the Utah Office of Tourism for Forever Mighty initiatives to support the communication and implementation of these sustainability initiatives. Economic impact has and will always be one of our pillars. We are responsible for programs promoting our community as an attractive travel destination and enhancing our public image as a dynamic place to live and work. We divide this into 2 sections, our group business and our destination branding. I think it's worth mentioning that the pandemic continues to wreak havoc on a number of our markets, including business and meeting and convention travel. This year alone, we lost 27 groups with 28,400 people who would have been in attendance and about $10 million in economic impact. However, due to some very creative work with our facilities and my team, we were able to secure 37 new groups with just under 25,000 in attendance and $9.9 million in economic impact in this year for the year business. A lot of this we were able to do because of a partnership we created with the state, the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, and the Utah Office of Tourism to create a Meet in Utah grant, knowing that our conference districts were the most highly impacted by the pandemic. The funds we secured for them were used as incentives and generated nearly $8 million of this economic impact this year. Most of these, because that meeting business didn't return, was allocated to numerous sporting events, most of which would never have considered our community as a destination for their event. And now we've showcased how we're able to accommodate and successfully execute, and know we've secured a number of clients. A lot of them have rebooked for coming years. We did welcome back the Utah Tourism Conference as our first conference in the conference center, which felt very appropriate. We also welcomed back TCG after a lot of touch and go and hard work. And then sporting events like Spartan and Xterra and the PDGA World Championship event, which had been delayed last year, which, as you know, resulted in ESPN's Play of the Day coverage. So that was awesome. We are also doing a lot of work. I think it's worth mentioning again that there are a number of events that look to come to our community that we actually turn away or don't follow through on soliciting their business because of the perceived or potential negative impacts they may have on our community. Those types of things involve events that close down roads in the Upper Ogden Valley, and we know cause a lot of consternation for residents in that area. So there are a number of cycling and triathlon and those types of events that would take up road space that we have not pursued. But also it's expanding to ensuring those that are at venues are a good match for our venues and are supportive of the values of that venue, whether it's a private or public entity. And that picture on the top middle, I just had to point out because you know you're doing a great job making a good impression on an event planner when they get a tattoo of your logo while they're in market. And so I figure, you know, they got it from a local tattoo shop. So not only did we secure the event for economic impact, they had a local spend and branding forever. So it's like a win-win-win. It's awesome. The destination branding site encompasses leisure marketing and the branding we do to communicate all that our community has to offer. Some of the things we did included implementing year-round marketing strategies. We used to focus only on summer and winter, but recognizing that we need to drive business to be more sustainable during these shoulder seasons. We secured $275,000 in funding from the Utah Office of Tourism Co-op program to further our marketing outreach and programs, and generated approximately 40 million impressions through our social and digital campaigns. The earned media is also a piece of this, and while our numbers were far lower this year than they typically are, I think it's worth mentioning that we generated about $3 million in earned media, especially recognizing that, as we all know, the news was proliferated with political unrest and pandemic-related news. So we were very proud of those efforts. So I'll just say that through the knowledge of the destination, our brand management, promotional programs, and the resulting impacts of visits by people, we strengthen our community's economic position and vitality, which provides opportunity for all the people in our destination. I mentioned the destination development plan that we created last year. That's a 10-year plan. It's divided into 3 phases, and in 2021 we tackled about 20 of the 34 initiatives, but many of those are ongoing. These encompass many goals for sustainability of development. We want our destination and product development to marry people, planet, prosperity, and policy. We've restructured our team to form a community partnerships manager role to highlight the importance of talking to our community and listening to our community and the communication efforts all around to achieve our goals and the community's goals. We're supporting our businesses by doing more promotion of opportunities for monetization near our recreation assets, so that when people utilize all these amazing assets we have, they're encouraged to spend while they're nearby. We've also formed new committees like the Ogden area chapter of the Salt Lake Area Restaurant Association, which focuses on local independent restaurants and provided trainings to enhance local business opportunity and knowledge. We have a goal to ensure that our community is Olympic ready at all times, which means paying attention to the highest level of detail. But this year, Olympic activities actually began as we worked with all of our hotel partners to secure bids for the upcoming overall Olympic bid. We also worked with our conference center, Culture Parks and Rec partners on the expansion feasibility study, as well as with you commissioners, and are working with the developers in Ogden City on the progress and development of the Wonder Block. We partnered with organizations like Pledge for the Wild and Leave No Trace to work to communicate and ensure our assets are protected and developed in a way that further the enjoyable experiences people get to use them for. And finally, supporting the growth and promoting our numerous arts and culture opportunities and working on ways to promote them within each of these other areas. We also partnered with WEBER School District. We know a lot of our next generation doesn't know a lot about what our community has to offer. And so we partnered with them to not only we are hosting an intern this semester, but in addition, she and Karen on my team formatted a field trip that will be ongoing where we bring the kids from all the Weber County elementary schools into downtown Ogden and discuss our history and our arts, and also tie into their CTE pathways curriculum by talking and having them meet with various partners to explore job opportunities that exist in our community. So now looking forward to 2022, and again using our mission statement with our 5 pillars, I'm not going to read through each of these bullets since you have it in front of you and there's an awful lot there, but I'll just say that under this community pillar, we have a little bit of a tale of 2 cities. We know that our 2 primary destination driver areas for the county are downtown Ogden and the Upper Ogden Valley. Both have very different needs from us on how we sustainably grow those communities. So downtown, we have needs for aligned branding efforts, group business, placemaking, and an intent to demonstrate additional hotel lodging needs. Our branding efforts in Ogden also support that workforce recruitment I mentioned and retention as we share the message of the quality of life we enjoy here. In the Upper Ogden Valley, our demands are different. We need to generate enough year-round visitation to help businesses be viable and sustainable, but also need to ensure that the infrastructure is there to support this development. We need to create gathering places and ensure neighborhoods are available in which people can afford to live, and that we have the opportunity to support the growth of this community. Throughout, we're creating facilitated opportunities to support local business and our arts. This is a snapshot of that destination development plan timeline. These are the objectives we will be working on in 2022. We feel that our destination stewardship starts with economic, environmental, and societal sustainability. We need to make sure that we have great public sector coalitions between our visitor industry, our economic development agencies, our academic institutions, and our civic and philanthropic organizations. Our goal is to curate more immersive destination experiences, manage sustainable visitor growth, promote equitable economic development, preserve and improve the environment, and elevate the quality of life, leading to quality of place. On economic impact, I talked about the group business side and securing events that meet the needs of our communities and partners. And one of the things that we've done is invested in a tool called Zartico. It's a data platform that is ridiculously robust and will give us a lot of, it does a lot of tax reporting as well as monitoring our KPIs on our marketing campaigns. But one of the things it allows us to do is see how people are moving through our community and what's being impactful. So as an example, we took Labor Day weekend. If you'll remember, we had the OFO Music Festival down at Fort Buenaventura. We had both Twilight concerts on both Friday and Saturday nights. There was a First Friday art stroll downtown. And when we look back on that weekend, we see that 16% of the people in our community were visitors and 84% were residents. Now, visitors are defined as anyone outside of 30 miles, so not just Weber County residents. But if you look at those graphs on the right, sorry, that looks like that line got out of place, but you can see how in-state visitors moved throughout the community as well as out-of-state visitors. And if I play this, we can do these visualizations to show how people moved throughout our community over those few days. So the teal dots are residents, the orange dots are out-of-state visitors, and the white dots are in-state visitors. So this way we can look at events and see how people move throughout the community, where they go. If it's something that's at the conference center, we can zone in to see if they are on 25th Street or going to surrounding areas in our community, or leaving us all together and going to a neighboring community, and so that we can guide our efforts on how to both manage that from a sustainability perspective, but also a local business support perspective. Our advocacy work continues. These goals are pretty close year after year. Obviously, it's making sure we maintain great relationships with our locally elected officials, our state representatives, and others to communicate the value of the visitor economy to our community. And my team is the fifth pillar. Obviously, they are our greatest asset, so working on strategies to ensure that we develop their skills and knowledge and I retain them is one of those pillars as well. And I'll just finish by saying, I played yesterday in my annual meeting a video that we created that was an Ogden Placemakers panel that goes back into our history. We all know it. If we had a dime for every time someone tells us a story of not wanting to come to 25th Street in their youth, I wouldn't need a marketing budget. But so we tell the story of the work we've done to create the place we have now. And I think that our ultimate goal here is to just continue our positive trajectory moving forward. We don't want that same look back opportunity 20 years from now, looking back on now, that we didn't take the right actions or the right steps to grow strategically and sustainably. I'm listening to a book by Indra Nooyi, who's a previous CEO of PepsiCo and was involved with Motorola and a number of huge organizations. And she talks about having performance with purpose and how there's constant trade-offs to fulfill our long-term goals. And I think that's where we are now. It's really difficult for us to pass up these great races that, you know, have significant spend in our community, but recognizing that it's not what's good for our community right now and in that long term is part of getting us to that long-term sustainability of ensuring that we are a shared value within our community. She talks about how we have so little time in this world, and how you spend that time, balance that time, work your life around that time is going to be one of the most critical things we can do moving forward. And I just want to finish by saying I'm honored to get to spend my time this way. It's a real privilege to be able to feel like you get to play a role in the development of your community. And so I just want to thank you for this opportunity and present this plan to you for your approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Tolliver. What a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jenkins and I were present yesterday, and we appreciate what you've done and your team that you've assembled and what you do. And we also recognize Cassie and Marty in the room, and as they play a huge part in those visitations, especially through COVID. Commissioner Frohr, I'm going to go to you for a comment or anything on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sarah, great presentation. Obviously very successful. I was pleased to see that in your presentation you brought up economic development more than once. I think we know the success of economic development in our county starts with people coming here, visiting us first, and then staying here and becoming residents and starting businesses. I can think of a half a dozen companies that exist here in Weber County now because they started coming here to ski. And then they moved here, and then they started their business. So I would encourage you to work with our Economic Development Northern Utah Economic Resource, because you are really the starting portion of what we see in the future as we look at these companies and families that come into our community. And it's critical that we work hand in glove. We can't be siloed, and I know that our new Economic Development Director feels the same way. So I just encourage you to work with our people in Economic Development to make sure that we're bringing in the companies that we want to bring in, and also with our existing companies, because we concentrate just as much on existing companies as we do with those future companies that come in. But great presentation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Well, I have nothing but accolades and praises to give you.
Thanks.
Sarah, for what you've done and the results of your work. And Visit Ogden has just been a huge part of the community, and I'm grateful for you.
Thank you very much. I
bet.
appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioners. On this, Ms. Tolliver's requested we take action and approve her marketing plan for the 2022, or strategic plan. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
I have a motion?
Second.
And a second. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Tolliver.
Thank you.
Item number 2 is a presentation, request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing members to the Roy Water Conservancy District. Ms. Skeen, I believe we have 2 applicants for this open or vacant position that was left vacant early, wasn't it?
No.
Okay.
You're correct. There is a vacancy on the Roy Water Conservancy District Board. Jay Cottle, who was previously serving, his term has expired, will expire at the end of this month, or December. And I received 2 applications that you have before you, Chris Davis and John Ritchie, and they're both eligible to serve. This is for District 5 of the Conservancy District, and just ask for your approval on the appointment.
Commissioners' comments regarding the 2 applicants? If there's no comments, I'll entertain a motion. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we appoint Chris Davis to the Roy Water Conservancy.
You know, he's a fine man.
He's a fine man. Way impressed with him.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion dies.
Okay.
Is there another motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move to appoint Mr. John Ritchie to that position. And I understand both, the issue we have here, these are both fine individuals. I'm probably more familiar with Mr. Ritchie than I am Mr. Davis, but I am familiar with both, and it's a hard decision, so that's my motion.
Is there a second? Chair will second that motion with comment. I did some homework on both of these individuals, and they're both fine individuals. I've heard nothing but positive accolades. But there's a good, better, and best solution here, and that's why I've seconded that for Mr. Ritchie, who seems to, of the 2, boy, I wish, and I would hope to have this kind of quality in every one of our opportunities to fill boards. So thank you very much, both for applying. So with that, I'll place that motion for vote. It's a resolution, so Mr. Brandt, go ahead.
Okay, roll call vote for Resolution 49-2021. Commissioner Frohr?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
No?
Chairman Harvey?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 3, Commissioners, is a request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing members to the Ogden Musical Theater Advisory Board. Our presenter today is Ms. Cassie Bybee.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So I believe you have the resolution in front of you, and the board members. They have been serving as board members, and then they have the opportunity to be reelected to serve a second term as board members. So that's Annette DeFries as well. She's been serving kind of in our hospitality for OMT, does a great job there. And Jolene Zito, she's served as our vice chair the past 3 years, and she in January we'll have a new vice chair, but she's done an amazing job. And then Sasha Clark, she has been helping on the marketing side of OMT and helping with the marketing. And then Karen Bristol, and she is with Weber State University, and she has been taking the lead on some of our continued education and our master classes. So they've all been elected by the board to serve a second term.
Terrific, Commissioners. Great names there. Are there any questions for Ms. Bybee regarding any of those persons? This would be resolution number 50-2021. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd make that motion to approve, what was the number again?
50-2021.
50-2021.
Second.
As was presented, Mr. Brandt, go ahead.
Okay, roll call vote for Resolution 50-2021. Commissioner Faur?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chairman Harvey?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and the Utah Indigent Defense Commission, allowing Weber County to apply for federal funds through the Utah Indigent Defense Commission for reimbursement of up to 50% of the amount spent on legal representation for the parents of children who are candidates for the Title V-E foster care. Our presenter today is Mr. Brian Barron. Mr. Barron, go ahead, please, sir.
Thanks, Commissioners. So just a little bit of background on this. There is a federal program that provides money to state and local governments for administrative costs spent on child welfare cases. In the past, the Department of Health and Human Services has stated in their guidance that they did not consider attorney fees to be reimbursable expenses. But they've reversed that position recently. And so we are entering into this contract with the State Indigent Defense Commission, which will allow us to apply for those funds every 6 months. Currently, the county has 6 attorneys in the juvenile court that handle child welfare cases, and we spend just over $500,000 on those legal fees every year. So this stands to be a very beneficial agreement for the county.
Very good. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Barron regarding indigent defense?
One question, Mr. Chair, if I might.
Please go ahead, Commissioner Faur.
So, Mr. Barron, can you give us an idea of the dollar amount we're talking about here that would be reimbursed?
Yeah, so we spend, it's $577,000 is what we have budgeted for next year. Not all of that is for child welfare expenses. Some of that is for delinquency cases. And so we're looking at just over $500,000 a year, and the federal government will reimburse us up to 50%. So we're hoping we can get somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 a year out of this.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Any other commissioner? Any other questions, commissioners? Commissioner Jenkins?
Nope.
Great. I'll entertain a motion from either of you.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve.
That's second.
I have a motion and a second. This is a contract. I'll call for that vote now. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Barron, go ahead with number 5. This is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and West Publishing Corporation to provide public defender attorneys with access to Westlaw, a legal research database. Mr. Barron?
Thank you, Commissioners. So the county's been providing Westlaw access to our public defenders for a number of years now. The prior agreement expires the end of this year, and so this would be a new agreement for 36 months to continue providing that access.
Terrific. Questions for Mr. Barron? No questions. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. I'll place that motion for vote as it's a contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number G, Commissioners. Commissioners' comments. Commissioner Jenkins?
None.
Commissioner Faur?
Well, thank you.
To the two of you and the rest of the public listening now in person or online, we'll remind you that next week our commission meeting will be held at 5:30 with a public hearing at 6 o'clock. That'll be on Tuesday, November 23rd. We'll entertain a motion from item number H.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're adjourned.